Imagine standing on a crowded underground platform in London, Paris, or Berlin at exactly 6 in the evening. The air is heavy and thick. It smells of damp wool coats, cold winter rain, and the metallic dust of the train tracks. The fluorescent lights hum above you, casting a pale and exhausted shadow on hundreds of faces. A massive metal train screeches to a halt, and you are immediately pushed forward by a sea of silent strangers. You step into the carriage, and the doors slide shut behind you, with a heavy thud, sealing you inside a moving steel box. You are standing so close to the people around you that you can feel the fabric of their coats brushing against your arm. You can hear the faint rhythmic beat of the music leaking from the headphones of the teenager next to you. You can even feel the subtle rise and fall of the chest of the person standing right in front of you as they breathe. Physically, you are separated by mere millimeters. You are closer to these strangers right now than you have been to your own family all year. But psychologically, you are millions of miles apart. You are floating in entirely different galaxies. Have you ever looked around a crowded train carriage, a busy city square, or a packed cafe, and felt a sudden crushing weight in your chest? Why is it that being surrounded by hundreds of breathing, living human beings makes you feel more invisible, more utterly alone, than if you were standing in the middle of an empty desert? Why does the physical closeness of the city only amplify the screaming silence in your soul? Please take a deep breath and let your shoulders drop. Welcome back. I am Henry. Today, Henry wants to hold your hand and walk with you through this beautiful but lonely urban landscape. We are going to explore the quiet tragedy of the modern European city, the profound isolation within the crowd. Henry is here to tell you that this feeling of emptiness is not a mental illness. You are not broken for feeling so incredibly disconnected. In this video, we will decode why your brain panics when it is surrounded by nameless faces. Stay with Henry in this safe and quiet space until the very end. We will learn how to survive the coldness of the city and find warmth in a world that has forgotten how to look each other in the eye. Let us trace the footsteps of your typical day to understand how this urban isolation slowly swallows you whole. You are a hard-working professional living in a grand historic European city, a city that millions of tourists dream of visiting. But for you, the city is a giant ticking clock. You wake up, you drink your morning coffee, and you step out into the crisp morning air. You walk toward the metro station, and the moment you swipe your travel card at the electronic gates, you officially enter the machine. You step onto the long escalator, descending deep into the underground tunnels. As you go down, you look at the faces of the people coming up on the opposite side. Hundreds of faces gliding past you every single minute. Some are young, some are old, some look tired, some look stressed. But notice what they are all doing. Not a single person is looking straight ahead. Their eyes are glued to the glowing screens of their smartphones, or they are staring blankly at the floor. Or they are looking at the advertising posters on the walls. They will look at absolutely anything, just to avoid making eye contact with another human being. You reach the platform and merge into a sea of dark gray, black, and navy winter coats. This is the unwritten law of the modern metropolis. The urban code of survival. You must protect your personal space by building an invisible fortress around yourself. And the most powerful brick in that fortress is your pair of noise-canceling headphones. You put them over your ears, you turn on a podcast or some atmospheric music, and you press a button to block out the world. Suddenly the roaring sound of the train and the chatter of the crowd disappear. You are now inside your own private cinematic universe. You feel safe, but that safety comes with a heavy price. You have completely severed the final thread of connection to the physical world around you. When you finally board the train and find a spot to stand, you lean against the cold glass of the door. The train rushes through the dark tunnels. You look at the reflection in the window, and you see yourself surrounded by 30 other people in this tiny section of the carriage. Yet the silence is deafening. No one speaks. If someone accidentally bumps into you, they quickly mutter a quiet apology, without even looking up from their phone, and instantly retreat back into their shell. There is a mutual silent agreement among everyone here. We will share this physical space, but we will pretend that none of us actually exist. This is when the dark thoughts start to creep into your mind. You watch the rhythmic swaying of the strangers around you, and a terrifying realization hits you. You realize that you are just a tiny, anonymous gear in a massive, terrifyingly efficient machine. The city does not know your name. The city does not care about your childhood dreams, the heartbreak you suffered last month, or the anxiety that kept you awake last night. You ask yourself a heartbreaking question. If I were to suddenly disappear tomorrow morning, if I never swiped my card at that gate ever again, what would happen? The answer is chilling. Absolutely nothing would happen. The trains would still arrive exactly on time. The sea of dark winter coats would still flood the station. Another anonymous stranger would step into the exact spot where you are standing right now. The crowd would seamlessly close the gap you left behind, and the city would simply keep moving without skipping a single beat. This realization creates a deep physical ache in your chest. You are doing everything society asked you to do. You got the education, you moved to the big city, you found the respectable job, you pay your taxes, and you mind your own business. You are surrounded by millions of people who did the exact same thing. But beneath the beautiful architecture, the historic monuments, and the bustling economy, there is an epidemic of silent grief. You are starving for a genuine human connection in a place where connection has been engineered out of existence. You spend your days communicating with people across the globe through emails and video calls, but you do not even know the name of the neighbor who has lived next door to you for 3 years. You walk through crowded streets, feeling like a ghost. You speak, but your voice is drowned out by the sirens and the traffic. You smile, but no one is looking up to see it. You are experiencing the ultimate paradox of modern civilization. We have built cities so large and populations so dense that we have accidentally crushed the very thing that makes us human. The ability to truly see and be seen by one another. Henry has completed the first 2 parts of our journey, exploring the hook and the deep emotional reality of the urban commute. Please let Henry know when you are ready to continue to part 3, where we will use the wisdom of psychology to understand why this isolation hurts so much, and part 4, where we will find real solutions. To truly understand why this profound isolation hurts you so deeply, we need to look beyond the architecture of the city and peer into the ancient architecture of your brain. Let Henry take you on a journey back in time. Not just a few decades, but hundreds of thousands of years ago, to the very dawn of humanity. And to help us decode this pain, we will borrow the wisdom of Abraham Maslow, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century. Maslow gave the world a brilliant framework called the hierarchy of needs. He visualized human desires as a pyramid. At the very bottom, the foundation of the pyramid, are your basic biological needs: food, water, and a warm place to sleep. Once you have those, you move up to the second tier, which is safety and security. A steady income, a locked door, a predictable environment. Now let us pause here for a moment. The modern European metropolis is an absolute masterpiece at fulfilling these first 2 tiers. You have a comfortable flat with central heating to protect you from the harsh winter. You have supermarkets filled with food from all over the globe. You have a stable job, a reliable public transport system, and a strong social welfare net. Logically speaking, you have everything you need to survive. You should be perfectly happy. But Maslow pointed out a tragic flaw in our modern design. He explained that once your stomach is full and your body is safe, a new terrifying hunger awakens. This is the 3rd tier of his pyramid, the need for love, belonging, and deep human connection. You see, human beings were never designed to live among millions of strangers. For the vast majority of our evolutionary history, our ancestors lived in small, close-knit tribes of about 150 people. In those ancient tribes, anonymity did not exist. Everyone knew your name. Everyone knew your parents. Everyone knew your strengths and your weaknesses. If you were sick, the tribe noticed. If you were sad, the tribe gathered around you. Your survival depended entirely on belonging to the group. To be separated from the tribe, to become invisible, meant certain death in the wilderness. Your brain still operates on this ancient software. It is biologically wired to constantly scan your environment for familiar faces, for eye contact, for signs that you belong to a tribe. So when you are standing in the middle of a massive underground station surrounded by thousands of people who refuse to look at you, your primitive brain completely short-circuits. It looks at the crowd and realizes that out of these thousands of moving bodies, not a single one would stop to protect you. Not a single one knows your name. To your ancient brain, this is not just an inconvenience. It is an evolutionary nightmare. It triggers a primal panic. Neuroscience has actually proven that the feeling of social rejection and deep loneliness lights up the exact same pain receptors in your brain as a physical injury. You are quite literally in pain. You are experiencing a phenomenon that sociologists call being thirsty while swimming in the ocean. Imagine floating in the middle of the vast Atlantic Ocean. There is water everywhere you look, stretching out to the horizon. Millions of gallons of water touching your skin, but you are dying of thirst because you cannot drink a single drop of it. That is exactly what living in a modern metropolis feels like. You are surrounded by an ocean of humanity. Millions of living, breathing souls, pressing against you on the streets and on the trains, but you cannot drink a single drop of genuine connection from them. The city is a brilliant machine for economic productivity, but it is a barren desert for the soul. The culture of strict privacy, the headphones, the averted eyes, they are all survival mechanisms that city dwellers use to avoid sensory overload. But in protecting ourselves from the noise, we have accidentally locked ourselves inside invisible glass boxes. You can see the world moving around you, but you cannot touch it. You are emotionally starved in a city of absolute abundance. So how do we survive in this beautiful but freezing urban desert? You cannot simply pack your bags, abandon your career, and move to a remote village. In the mountains. You have a life here, a future to build. How do you quench your thirst for connection without drowning in the overwhelming noise of the metropolis? Henry wants to offer you a new perspective and some practical tools to slowly melt the ice around you. First, we must learn the art of cultivating micro-connections. You do not need to become best friends with the stranger on the train. That would be exhausting and culturally inappropriate. But your brain does not need a grand, profound conversation to feel safe. It just needs tiny sparks of recognition. Tomorrow morning, when you buy your coffee, take off your headphones for just 2 minutes. Look the barista directly in the eyes, give them a warm, genuine smile, and wish them a good morning. When you step off the bus, say a clear thank you to the driver. When you hold the door open for someone in your office building, meet their gaze. These interactions last for 3 seconds, but they are incredibly powerful. They send a sudden spark of electricity to your brain that says, I am seen. I exist. I am part of the human race. If you collect 3 or 4 of these micro-connections a day, you will slowly begin to feel the ice melting in your chest. Second, Henry wants you to reframe the way you view the anonymous crowd. Right now you see their silence as rejection. You see their averted eyes as a sign that you do not matter. But let us change the lens. What if this anonymity is not a prison, but the ultimate form of freedom? Think about living in a tiny village. Yes, everyone knows your name, but everyone also judges your every move. They judge what you wear, who you date, what time you come home, and what mistakes you made 10 years ago. You are trapped by their opinions. But in the grand metropolis, the crowd does not care about you, and that is actually a magnificent gift. Because they do not care, you are completely free. You can walk down the street wearing the most ridiculous outfit, and the city will not judge you. You can sit on a park bench and cry over a broken heart, and the city will simply let you be. You can reinvent yourself completely tomorrow morning, and the city will not question you. The indifference of the crowd is a heavy blanket of absolute liberty. Once you realize that the silence of strangers is not a punishment, but a shield protecting your personal freedom, the city suddenly becomes a massive playground rather than a lonely fortress. Finally, whenever the feeling of isolation becomes too heavy to bear, Henry wants you to do a simple grounding exercise. Place your hand on your chest and feel your own heartbeat. Remind yourself that you are your own safest sanctuary. You do not need the validation of 1,000 strangers to prove that you exist. You are a complete magnificent universe all on your own. Henry knows that tonight, when you look out of your window at the thousands of glowing lights across the city skyline, you might still feel a tiny ache of loneliness. And that is perfectly okay. If you are sitting there right now feeling the weight of the city pressing down on you, please leave a comment below. Tell Henry which city you are listening from. Let this digital space become our little village, where we actually see each other. Henry will read your words and stand with you in the quietness. If this documentary of the mind brought you a sense of peace and understanding, please subscribe to the channel or join our membership family. Let us continue to break through the walls of our inner worlds together. Thank you for sharing your time and your beautiful soul with Henry today. Breathe deeply, my friend. You are never truly alone. Goodbye, and see you very soon.